Students at the University of the Witwatersrand's Braamfontein campus have staged a protest demanding the immediate registration of all students for the 2026 academic year. And protesters argue that no student should be excluded due to outstanding historical debt or academic criteria, as of course tensions rise ahead of the new academic cycle. Now, yesterday we spoke to the Wits SRC President Nchabeleng Gilbert for clarity on the situation. Now, Ntyatyambo Zwelimangele Volsaka, the South African Students' Congress, Johannesburg Regional Deputy Chairperson, joins us with the right of reply representing the concerns of the protesting students. So welcome, Ntyatyambo. So a very good afternoon to you. What would you like to clarify after yesterday's discussion with the SRC President on the exclusion of some students at Wits? What's your side of the story? Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me. So the first thing that we want to clarify is that 98% of students are registered. What the information that the president actually provided is inaccurate, and it is statistics that come from the university. So if you check those statistics, it's the target that has been set by the Department of Higher Education and Training versus the number of students that the university has registered. So it means that the president is actually undermining our intellectual capacity by just bringing us stats that have been provided by the university. Secondary to that, as it stands, we're having at least 3,000 students who remain unregistered, and they have not been assisted by the SRC fund. The president has went on to go to television yesterday, saying that they've been assisting a lot of students, making sure that they're getting registered. But he has failed to actually clarify as to how many students have been assisted by the fund. If you check, they claim that they have raised 7 million, of which they were only able to actually raise 6 million because the other million comes from the SRC of the previous year, which was in 2025. These statistics that the president has actually shown to us are inaccurate, and they do not represent the true issues that are facing our students. But the most important part is that as much as they can argue that 98% of students are registered, those lives still matter. We cannot allow students to go back home without them being registered, because we want all students to be registered regardless of their historical debt that they owe.
All right. So how many students then, Ntyatyambo, are we currently talking about that are affected by this impasse? And what are the solutions from SASCO, Wits University, as well as the SRC? Because we understand that Wits said they did spend about 2.1 billion rand on student financial aid just on the previous academic year.
So as it stands, there are 3,000 students who applied for SRC fund. And if the SRC had 7 million, it means that they were able to assist at least around 150,000, meaning that we have at least 2.8 students who are not assisted by the SRC fund, and the SRC did not speak about that. But the university is also providing providing statistics that are not factual. It cannot claim that they've assisted students with 2.1 billion. That is a blatant lie. That money includes money from the discretionary fund. It includes money from the veterinary registration assistant fund, but also includes money from private bursaries and NSFAS. Not forgetting that the university was found by the SIU to have not paid 450 million to NSFAS funded students.
Talk to us about the challenges then in Ntyatyambo pertaining to this current funding model, especially by those external donors as well as the university's financial aid assistance program. What are the issues? What seem to be the issues there?
The issues we're having here is that students are being told to go home because they cannot afford education. That for us is very problematic, because all these students are actually academically deserving, and they should be allowed to register. We do not have money, unfortunately. That 7 million is a clear indication that it is not enough to assist as many students as we can. We cannot sit back and watch our fellow students being told to go back home because they are too poor to be educated. So that is the kind of problem that we are dealing with.
So now let's talk to those, that 2.8% that you say has still not been assisted. How many numbers? Talk to us about the numbers. How many students are not able to access the university at this stage due to the outstanding fees?
We cannot give those stats from our side because we are not the university, but we have also noted with great concern that the university is giving us wrong statistics. But if you are saying that 3,000 students are applied for the SRC fund, it means that if you're only able to assist 200 of them, 2.8 have not been assisted by the SRC fund. That is what we are saying.
And then we also heard the excluded students, have they been assisted by the SABC as suggested by Nchabeleng? Have you also been part of the fundraising as SASCO? And what do you need in order to sustain the missing middle students as well? We also understand there are currently suspended students in Ntyatyambo as a result of this ongoing impasse. What can you tell us about that particular group of students as well?
Well, having 14 students who've been suspended, and the only crime they've committed, it is to refuse to stand back and watch black students being told to go back home. Okay. The SRC-SG has also been suspended, which is quite concerning because the SRC is nowhere to be found to actually come and defend all these students who have been suspended. The SRC president has dismally failed to come and assist students and make sure that he's at the forefront and fight for all students, because the SRC represents students regardless of where they come from, regardless of how they have passed and how much they are owing. So it is quite disheartening that we're having 14 student leaders who have been suspended simply because they exercised their right to protest. So the SRC president currently, he's nowhere to be found. Instead, what we have gotten through the grapevine is that there's someone who has sent lists to management on who must be targeted to ensure that the protest does not take place. Right. But to answer the question of how SASCO and the SRC is assisting in terms of funding. Remember that SASCO is just an organization, and as an organization, we do not have the powers to be able to negotiate it. It's only the SRC that can actually be able to do so. But what we are currently requesting, it is to say that let us allow all students to register regardless of the historical debt that they are owing. We are then going to work on the fundraising model later on during the course of the year. But also, that is not our problem as student activists. That is not our problem as students. When students are not being allowed to register, it means that they are being sent to go back home. And when you send students to go back home, you have killed their future, you have killed their lives. Hence, we have decided as student activists to go to the streets of Braamfontein and say that we choose to die in Braamfontein than go home without education.
Ntyatyambo, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That is Ntyatyambo Zwelimangele Volsaka there of the SASCO student representative body at Wits University, responding to the current exclusionary protests taking place at Wits University.